I'm not a liberal.
Just hear me out for a second.
Yeah.
Hear me a second. He said what? It was what was the word he used? It was a reasonable leftist, or what was it? Tolerable leftist? Some word like
Common
that.
sense leftist.
Yeah. But anyways, that's today. It's a free agent. It's a different
You're both
story.
chooches.
But check this out. Check this out. What if, Chris,
Yes,
they take the next step with these IDs?
What's the next step?
The next step is that 100% of people in America need an ID to vote.
Yeah, you're going to have a big political fight. The left is going to
That's-
say that you're disenfranchised. And now they may have allies with Vinny.
By the way, that's the
Changes
point.
their mind.
You understand what just happened?
yeah.
This was so funny what just happened right now because he's sitting here saying, "What's wrong with it?" You know,
I'm like, it's more control and more databases.
I was never against
the
it.
government.
I was never
funny.
against it.
You are funny.
Hold on.
There's so many conservatives with Vinny on this, with libertarians say, "Don't get out of my life." And then, but wait,
Yeah.
let's talk about gun registries then. Well, now we don't want it.
We have a
No.
gun registry.
No.
When you go, there's a
No.
federal registry. You and I both had to sign up.
Like I'm.
Wait a minute.
That's
Eric,
not true.
When you
That is
buy
not
a
true.
weapon, you have to fill out paperwork for the federal government. They make a phone call and do a check on you.
There's a waiting period.
What-
If you get it.
Depends on what kind of weapon and where you are.
You can purchase guns legally without having a background check.
Where?
Any gun shows.
Gun shows.
Gun shows.
Look, that's the loophole, right?
Right. But my point is, I'm a conservative. I'm saying keep your registries off my Second Amendment.
Yeah.
Yet I also want a voter ID, a real ID to vote. I mean, there's a bit of a hypocrisy there.
Well,
I'm just calling it out.
I don't think it's hypocrisy. I think it's conditioning. Okay, I think that we are a gotcha culture. That you have to line up with a side, and if you're going to go against the side, you got to say something that kind of keeps your legitimacy with them. You know, like Yellen. Oh, I agree with Yellen on this, but she's a terrible leftist who was whatever. You know, you got to keep your DAP with your side, which is part of the problem. I'm telling you, when you buy a weapon, you have to go through the federal register. Maybe not at a gun show. I don't know. I bought my weapons at stores, but. You know, fine, you want a background check everywhere. I don't have a problem with that. Most responsible gun owners don't. Our beef is with how people keep their guns and let people get access to them and don't store them safely, and then you have bad things. The voter ID, I'm just laying out to you what the resistance is. The resistance is that you want voter ID because the people who don't have an ID are the people who don't vote for you. That's their argument against it.
Or the people who don't have an ID aren't
Don't
citizens.
belong in the country.
Look, and that's the counter. And then
Well,
you
it's
get
a big
into the
counter, Chris. It's not like a little, caveat there. It's
Well, except that every
the vast
time they've
majority of
looked-
illegal. We just had Elon Musk just discovered 2 million people, 2
Elon
million
Musk.
illegal.
Elon
Doge,
Musk.
I'm sorry, Doge discovered 2 million people with social security numbers, and they were illegals with
Okay.
U.S. social security
Now,
numbers.
first of all, why? Here's the answer. Because employers take illegal workers and get them into the system because they have to pay FICA for them. And that's why they do it. It's not a boogeyman. It's not a gotcha. You want to say they vote. Every time they have looked at it, conservative organizations, they found 150 what they believed may be people who shouldn't have voted out of 27 million ballots.
Okay, well, maybe I'm not sure that number is right. I'm not going to
Google
agree with
it.
that.
You got
I
the guy
will
right
tell you
there.
though, they have many millions, maybe,
Well,
who
if
are,
that's the
who are
case.
receiving Social Security
Yes.
benefits.
Yes.
Who aren't even
they don't
legal,
they
legal
pay
citizens.
they pay in. They don't necessarily receive
they don't pay
benefits.
in. They don't
Sure
pay
they
in.
do. You
They
have
don't
to. When
pay
you
in.
hire them, you got to pay the FICA.
Chris,
Google it.
How many people
with the shiny head.
are
Google
here
it right
illegally
now.
doing landscaping
Beautiful
jobs,
shiny
who are
head.
cleaning hotel rooms,
There's
who
no
are working
question
in
that there are
restaurants
people
who aren't doing
I don't
any
think
of
they
that and
get
are
the
receiving.
benefits more than they pay in. To be honest, I don't think so. Now, look, I have no problem with the border policy. I was on this show and everywhere else saying that Biden handed the election to Trump. I don't believe that Trump won. I believe that Biden and the Democrats lost it. And that issue was a big part of it. And I think you got to give him his props for doing what he said he was going to do. I have no problem with any of that. I'm saying there is no inconsistency for me in saying I have no problem with a real ID when I'm telling you, I'm trying to find the
So
application.
then why don't we get that for everybody? Let's get it for everybody.
I'm telling you,
By the way, let me
have
tell
no
you.
problem
Well,
with it.
let me
I'm
ask
telling
this.
you politically what it'll be.
I know it will be, but if we got everybody to get real IDs, everybody to get real IDs to vote, oof. Can you imagine 16 years? If they get real IDs for everybody,
If
to be able to
everybody
vote,
has them, you have no issue. It's that you won't give them to everybody.
There's a moment in this clip where Patrick Bet David leans in real serious and says, what if everyone in America needed an ID to vote? Like it's a bombshell, like it's going to shake the room. And I'm sitting here thinking, sure, why wouldn't they? Requiring ID to vote isn't the controversial part. The controversy starts when we confuse identification with federalization, when we swap a simple state-issued card for a biometric DHS-managed access pass. Chris Cuomo jumps in to say the left will call that disenfranchisement. Maybe they will. That's predictable. But what's dangerous isn't the reaction from the left. It's the sleight of hand happening on the right. The quiet shift from supporting voter ID to defending real ID, a totally different animal. One's about confirming eligibility. The other's about confirming submission. Then Eric Bolling delivers what he thinks is a moment of reflection. He says, I'm a conservative, I want voter ID, but I don't want gun registries. Maybe that's hypocritical. No, it isn't. It's not even close. You can't compare a fundamental, constitutionally protected right to a civil mechanism like voting. The Second Amendment uses the word shall. Voting rights don't. That matters. Gun ownership is a birthright. Voting is a procedure, one that can be restricted, revoked, or denied. One is off limits to federal interference. The other has been subject to it from the beginning. It's not inconsistent to reject registration for gun owners while demanding identification for voters. What's inconsistent is pretending both require the same kind of ID, or worse, pretending they justify the same kind of surveillance. If the system to verify your right to vote is the same one that logs your biometrics into a DHS-controlled database, you've already lost more than your franchise. You've surrendered your autonomy. Cuomo tries to pivot the conversation into culture. He talks about conditioning, gotcha politics, tribal loyalty. That's real, but it's not the deepest layer here. The real conditioning isn't social. It's systemic. It's training people to associate federal control with a legitimacy, to see a real ID not just as a credential, but as a character test. Good citizens comply. Everyone else gets flagged, and that's where the conversation completely misses the mark. They stumbled right up to the edge of the real problem, then backed away. This wasn't a debate about election law. It was a low-resolution rehearsal for biometric normalization. They weren't talking about voter ID. They were unknowingly defending a database-driven future where your right to participate hinges on your willingness to be tracked. Voter ID is about proving who you are. Real ID is about proving you're approved. They're not the same. And the longer we pretend they are, the more we walk people into a system that sees them not as voters, but as entries in a database pending authorization.